Hey guys, I'm cmasupra and welcome to another War Thunder video. In this video I have a realistic battle to show you guys as the Germans, and I also want to talk about the balance between the Germans versus the Americans and British. Now in update 1.41, a lot of German planes had their battle ratings increased, which really didn't do Germany any favors. Germany was already having a really tough time winning games in 1.39. So now in update 1.41, partially because of the battle rating increases and partially not because of them, it is actually really hard to win games as Germany, is what I have noticed. I have had multiple play streaks where I played a whole bunch of games in a row as the Germans, and I have had a really, really low win percentage, like maybe 20% to use an example. The particular game that you're watching here in the video was actually the fifth game in a row that I played with a group of people. We were not squatted or anything, we just kept queuing in the same games over and over just by pure chance, and we kept getting the same games. And this was the fifth game in a row that I played with them, and we had actually lost all four of the previous ones before this. Now myself and that group of people were all trying to do one thing as the Germans. We were trying to get our daily double, our ×2. It took us 5 games to do it, which is just crazy. The win percentage as Germany is just so low now in update 1.41, even though it was also low in 1.39. So, in this game, you can see, and I was also in the previous 4 games, I was flying out the Focke-Wulf 190D13, and this is not a plane that had its battle ratings increased in 1.41. Some other planes did, but this one did not. This one was not affected by 1.41 directly, only indirectly, because now some of its teammates are going to be with it that weren't with it before. But this plane was not directly affected, and that's just something I thought I should tell you guys. You did see me just take some pot shots at a B-25 there, and as you may have noticed while I was explaining other things, there were a whole bunch of American bombers this game. And bombers, I feel, are part of the reason that Germany has such a problem winning games. So the reason we lost the previous 4 games was not because we all lost to the enemy fighters, because we all died or whatever, to Bearcats, because Bearcats are really good. We didn't die or anything like that. I actually survived in 3 out of those 4 games. I only died in 1 game. The reason we lost those 4 games is because we just ran out of tickets. And we ran out of tickets because the Americans had at least 1 bomber. And 1 bomber is really all it takes to lose as the Germans, because on a lot of maps, the ticket count is so low that if the 1 American bomber or more American bombers, like in this game there were at least 5 American bombers, which is just crazy. But if the 1 bomber is able to take out 1 or 2 of your bases, and you don't have a bomber on your team, then it becomes, instead of a race to kill the enemies before they kill you, it becomes a race to kill the enemies before the time runs out, because you only have so many tickets and they're always counting down, because the ground units are always killing each other. So it kind of changes the game when you add bombers to the mix. Now it is worth mentioning that only the Americans get the heavy bombers. The Germans do not really get any heavy bombers. They do have the 217s, the Dornier 217s, but they're not as good as B-17s, nor B-25s. The B-25s and B-17s are better. So this game that you're watching here, and there really hasn't been much that's going on my end in this game so far, although there will be in the future in this game, you can see that the Americans had 5 bombers, like I said, and there's actually a whole bunch of us chasing this 1 B-25. The reason we're all chasing this 1 B-25 is because we have been tired of losing games to bombers. And so we just said, screw it, the enemies have 5 freaking bombers, screw the enemy fighter planes, and screw trying to climb above them. We just have to accept the fact that we're going to be below them as we attack the bombers and potentially take damage from the bombers' gunners. And we decided to go for the enemy bombers, which ended up being the right thing to do. We ended up winning this game. It took us 5 games to do it, but we finally got a victory. And this goes into what I want to really talk about this video. Now I guess I really already covered the topic, but the main core concept that I want to talk about is why it is difficult for Germany to win missions. So no matter how good the German fighters are against the American fighters, the Americans tend to always have bombers, because that's just something they had in real life. There is no avoiding that, and the Germans didn't have as good of bombers, and so the Americans will usually have the better bombers. However, while Germany has to attack the bombers, because if they don't attack the bombers, they lose to tickets very quickly. Oh, oh, I didn't pull enough. Oh well. So Germany really has to attack bombers. They're also going to lose to tickets pretty quickly, because on most maps there are not very many tickets to go around for the German team. So as a result, what the Germans have to do is attack the bombers and lose altitude, and they don't stand a chance of climbing above the enemies. There we go. That only took me almost 200 rounds to hit that guy finally, and now I have a Spitfire on my 6. So, yeah, you have to lose altitude, you have to accept the fact that you're not going to be above your enemies, and because realistic battles are a climb more, they are just flat out a climb more, there is no avoiding that fact. The fact that your enemies are going to be above you is really, really bad for you. Unlike in simulator battles or something where you can actually lose your enemy. You can't do that in realistic battles very easily. So you have to accept the fact that the enemy fighters are going to be above you, and so the Americans have an advantage in two ways. Number one, they have bombers to win by tickets, and number two, their fighters are going to be in a better spot because they're above you. And that's why it is really difficult to win as Germany against the Americans and British, especially with the Spitfires, the new Griffin Spitfires that the British have, the premium Spitfire that the Americans get, and the B-17s and B-25 bombers. Those are what destroy the German tickets. So with all those things combined, also the Bearcats, I forgot to mention the Bearcats, the American Bearcats. Those are like the best climbing planes in the game, so those are hard to deal with as the Germans. And so with all that combined, the fact that the Americans have equal fighters, but then they also have bombers with really good gunners, and the bombers have tons of bombs, and it's just really hard to win as Germans. Now, the one and only way that I can think of to fix this would be to have the German fighters be better than the American fighters, but give the Americans access to bombers, or the lower tier bombers. Like right now, the Focke-Wulf 190 D13 that I'm flying in this game typically goes up against B-17s because of the 5.3 battle rating, and that's what B-17s also have. At least some of them have that. Instead of making it go up against B-17s, it could go up against lower tier bombers, which I don't know what that would be. But I know that there are some. Like the B-25 is a lower tier bomber than a B-17. So that would be my thinking, because instead of giving the Americans an advantage in both the fighters and the bombers, they should have less of an advantage in one or both of the areas, so the Germans actually have a chance of winning. Now, that might do one potential bad thing, and that could potentially make bomber spam a real thing as the Americans, because it's not already a real thing, right? It is, in case you were wondering. Bomber spam is a real problem when you're playing as the Germans. A lot of American players will just fly bombers because the gunners are amazing, and that is how you win games, by flying an American bomber, and then you go and bomb the enemy bases, and the Germans cannot win in time very easily. There we go, finally got the Corsair's tail. Maybe I'll get a second kill in this guy. Although it doesn't look like he's going down. So anyways, as I was saying, it's a bit of a problem for the Germans. The Germans just have a really tough time winning, because the American fighters are on par with the German fighters, but the Germans also have to deal with bombers, something that the Americans don't have to deal with. You can have like the 217s, like I said earlier in this video, on your team as the Germans, which the Americans will have to deal with, but they're not nearly as hard to kill as B-17s, and their gunners are not as good as B-17 gunners. And so the Americans just don't have that problem, and like I said earlier in this video, it's just a thing that happened in World War II. The Americans simply had better bombers, but if they're going to have better bombers in the game, you might as well somehow make the Americans worse. Otherwise, it's just going to be really hard for the Germans to win, which is currently the case because, well, partially because of the battle rating increases in 1.41. And the other reason is just because the Americans have better bombers. Simple as that. So 2 kills so far this game. I believe the only person left on the enemy team, actually there's 2 people left, but they're both there, and one of them just died, leaving only Drew R and his Corsair alive. And now Drew R is the guy whose tail I got, but it looks like he is not going down yet. He's also shooting at a teammate. I can't really do much here. I went head-on against a Corsair earlier in this game, as you may have noticed. That was not the smartest idea. Oh god, I'm doing it again here. I thought he turned away from me here, but he clearly didn't. If he had turned into me, I would have definitely zoomed in on him and aimed at him, but I don't think he did. I thought he turned his back to me. Anyways, I'm severely damaged now, so I'm going to go back to base. Somebody can kill Juar, hopefully, this game, right? Get myself 2 kills, that's good enough. 2 kills, almost 3, I suppose. It'd be an assist on Drew R, maybe. But, I think that's really all I need to say in this video. I've covered the major topics. You guys get the idea. If you have any ideas on how you can make it easier for the Germans to win without making American bomber spam worse and without making it worthless to fly American fighters, let me know in the comments. I am open to ideas. Like I said, I gave you my main idea, which would be to have the German fighters be better than the American fighters and the American bombers, but the fact that the Americans get both fighters and bombers that are actually pretty decent will be their advantage. Kind of like giving each country an advantage. I suppose another disadvantage to my idea would be the fact that if you're going to do that, you have to mess with battle ratings, and if you mess with battle ratings, you also affect the balance between other nations versus other nations. Like, if you decrease the German battle ratings for German planes, then you'll now have really good German planes going against really bad Russian planes or something, because you affect that balance as well. So that's something to think about in your suggestions, but I am definitely open to suggestions. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comments. It is just really hard to win as the Germans. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this game was not the only play session where I played a whole bunch of games in a row as the Germans to try and get a victory. I've done this quite a few times in this update, and I've just had horrible win streaks, or loss streaks rather, in my attempts to do it. You can say I also almost unlocked the ME262 this game. I actually do have the plane now, and I have since stopped playing War Thunder just because I have a new job now. I don't really have time for YouTube anymore. At least this week I don't until Thursday. Thursday's my last day this week. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any ideas on how to make it easier for the Germans to win without making American bomber spam become a thing, or even more of a thing rather, because it is already a thing, and making American fighters worthless, things like that. I don't know. Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments. I really look forward to hearing them, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.